Underneath me is really this hidden world. In El Paso, they have this extensive storm drain system, but the cartel uses it to smuggle illegal migrants from Mexico into the U.S.
So predictably, if you wall off the southern border, criminals are gonna try to dig under it. And beneath the earth, America's got drains and tunnels that lead from the border to other places, acting as a passageway for illegal operations run by cartels and gangs, who, as you're about to see, America's socialists want to enable for a very frightening reason.
We're about 1.5 miles from Mexico. It takes smugglers and illegal migrants about 45 minutes to an hour to get through here. And to give some perspective, it's hot, it's dark here, and the air quality is not great.
Masked agents violate the Constitution and visit terror upon our neighbors. They arrive as if atop a pale horse, and they leave a path of wreckage in their wake.
We must abolish ICE.
ICE has nothing to do with immigration. ICE has nothing to do with the southern border.
You don't know what's in your own car. I just have questions. Wait, go from up. I have nothing to do. Yes, go step out. Senor,
You've got people like Zoran Mamdani. Their stance on this is almost dangerous, bringing in all these illegals and essentially housing them.
Everything that Zoran Mamdani stands for is anti-American.
The border czar says more ICE agents are on their way to New York City. And what nobody's talking about is there's an effort going on right now to try and keep the border open, and this effort is being led by the socialists trying to take over our country. And they're gonna do it with the help of criminal organizations. And as the world just saw with the Democrat Party leader calling for the arrest of Israel's prime minister as a matter of international law, the way they're gonna go about this transformation of our country starts with adherence to a different system of rules, which in their minds are gonna replace the laws of the country they wanna take over and change forever. Which is why these communists hate U.S. immigration law, but they love the laws of the International Criminal Court for some reason. And that reason's very simple, because by rejecting America's laws and saying you're a firm believer in international laws, the communists can appeal to what they think is a higher standard to delegitimize the way our country operates. And their goal is to get as many people as possible thinking that by defying laws of the U.S. and claiming allegiance elsewhere, they're standing up for justice and liberty, even though if they'd look outside their window, those things exist in America to a greater extent than anywhere else. Which brings us to the real reason these criminal cartels and these communists all hate the U.S. border so much and want to see it wide open. Only Americans who obey the law care that it's closed. Notice that? Because it's not just the communists and the criminals, but international groups and foreign leaders who condemn President Trump for caring about border security, even though President Obama cared about border security, and that's because the country is being targeted for transformation. But you can't transform a country unless you've got another system ready to take its place, and that's where all of these allegiances come in. Not just to laws the communists don't like, but also to a different economic system, which is supposed to replace capitalism. And if they can plug this stuff in by winning elections, they think victory is just around the corner, something criminal organizations are very hopeful they achieve. Watch.
This hidden world. In El Paso, they have this extensive storm drain system.
Look at this.
But the cartel uses it to smuggle illegal migrants from Mexico into the U.S. Fox News got rare exclusive access. Take a look. We went deep underground.
Wow.
We climbed into the narrow storm drains
I can't even stand
with Border
up.
Patrol's elite confined space entry team. The underground maze stretches for miles beneath El Paso. Border Patrol says there are 32 entry points from the Rio Grande and hundreds of exit points throughout the city. So,
well, that right there explains how you can have the most secure border in U.S. history and still have people getting into the country without permission. You have areas like this that are tough to monitor. It's a constant battle, and there's exit points all over the place. And what's incredibly frightening is these tunnels are incredibly dangerous. It's not like you can just go down there and get places. Nope, they're supposed to carry massive amounts of water at a moment's notice, and if you have flash flooding and these things fill up, that's gonna be a problem. Which exposes the myth that these cartels are doing people a favor by helping them get into our country, and that they care not just about taking their $20,000 or $30,000 paychecks, but also care for the actual people who are part of the humanitarian crises they create and then try and exploit. They don't care about these people. They don't care about their customers. They're putting them in danger. Sometimes they get sent into these without even a guide or anyone to go with them and are told just keep going and you'll eventually figure. I mean, this is very dangerous and it's totally wrong, but it's being enabled by what? By sanctuary city policies and by people that think the border should be wide open.
Stella, I feel like he's absolutely spot on here because you've got people like Zoran Mamdani. Their stance on this is almost dangerous, bringing in all these illegals and essentially housing them. But what do you make of what Tom Homan said?
Everything that Zoran Mamdani stands for is anti-American. A country without no borders is not a country.
Well, it is. It's just a country that the communists think is ripe for exploitation because they've gotten rid of one of the things that keeps it the way it's always been, which is its system of immigration laws, something every single country has. If you go to another country without permission and you sneak in, they're going to deport you too. This is not something that only seems to happen in America. But you see, in order to take over our country, these communists, they need things that stand in opposition to the way the country runs and operates itself. That's why they hate ICE. That's why they hate immigration law. That's why they have other laws out there that they say, oh yeah, we're firm believers in international law. That's what Mayor Mamdani said. I'm a believer in international law. Like he's appealing to some group of laws over here that might be anti-American in nature, have absolutely nothing to do with our country, and aren't made to care and preserve the futures of American citizens. No, you need to obey America's laws if you're in America, just like you obey Japan's laws if you're in Japan, and just like you obey Sweden's laws if you're in Sweden. But the communists need alternative systems that people appeal to and obey and swear allegiance to, because if you can get enough people who are out there who think that the U.S.'s laws are wrong and that they are in violation of international law and that our borders are a joke and shouldn't be there because these things are wrong and these things just exploit people for some reason. If you get enough people thinking that, they'll vote for the alternative, and that's where the communists come in. Which explains why people putting themselves at risk just to pay off criminal organizations with tens of thousands of dollars is perfectly acceptable.
Described it as a game of whack-a-mole because smugglers can pop out of almost any storm drain. But agents say they use technology to detect movement underground, to monitor entry points, and position teams to intercept
they're
groups.
catching people.
We're about a mile and a half from Mexico. It takes smugglers and illegal migrants about 45 minutes to an hour to get through here. And to give some perspective, it's hot, it's dark here, and the air quality is not great.
That's wild. They're paying 20 grand, 30 grand.
With the border now closed, Border Patrol says traffic underground has changed. Instead of groups of 40 to 60 people moving through these drains, agents typically encounter about 2 to 3 at a time.
And they're paying $30,000 to get to move through. Now that tells you something very interesting, because back when we had the asylum crisis, you had many people who were coming into the country on what you could call the honor system. They would come into the country illegally, smugglers and criminals would get them through the border, and then they would make their way to the interior of the country and do what? They would start working, but they would have something called a debt that had to be repaid. And in a lot of these sanctuary cities, you've got gangs, you've got criminals, you've got Tren de Aragua and MS-13 in New York City. They're in league with the cartels. They're watching people to make sure they get jobs. They're watching people to make sure they're working to pay off these debts. But if you can only bring 3 people in some tunnel and you might get caught and you're charging $30,000 per person, you're gonna bring somebody in on $30,000 on the honor system? I don't think so. These are people right now who are not fleeing poverty. If you have $30,000 that might be completely wasted if you get caught and arrested and deported, that's somebody who I would say is rather well off if they've got $30,000 to throw away. Where did they get that money? Who gave it to them? What government gave it to them? Why are they willing to just blow it if they get caught in a storm drain in Laredo, Texas somewhere? That doesn't make any sense. But you might be asking yourself, what happens after people pop out of one of these storm drains? What's next? How do they get to a sanctuary city? Well, Put your seatbelt on.
Smugglers and cartels using these rideshare services to move illegal migrants deeper into the U.S.
Uber.
So we spoke exclusively with Border Patrol agents in El Paso about this. They say criminal organizations are using legitimate drivers to keep cartel members away from law enforcement.
It's bad news.
They don't want to lose a gang member. They don't want to lose a cartel member. They don't want to lose vehicles. They want to be able to use the public. And that's what our message is. Don't be used by the cartel.
So the border is so secure that when these criminals come across and they've got inside their vehicle people who are not supposed to be coming into America, they're getting caught, they're getting arrested, they're getting sentenced, and they're not coming back to the front lines, so to speak, of the war for border security in this country. These are not people who are getting caught and then turned right back around and said, hey, you got to just turn around, go back to the other side of the border. No, that's not what's happening anymore. People are getting deported. They're getting sent back to their home country, wherever that's from. And these criminal organizations, they're down on manpower. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to enlist the general public. They're scheduling Uber rides for people to get picked up in the middle of nowhere, right outside the southern border. And you know something? This is all perfectly okay with the communists because they will not admit the truth about what's going on down here. They will not admit that this is just one big operation that benefits the wrong people. And that's because they do not want the legitimacy of America's laws to keep America in place. They want America to be destroyed, transformed, remade. To do that, you need a different set of rules. You need a set of rules that open America up to what they want to do. Watch this.
So all of this stuff going on with Mayor Mamdani and the comments that he's made, first let me play part of that, and then I want to get your take on this.
There is a reason the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for his arrest. It is clear that we do not have the independent legal authority to enforce this warrant. The federal government, however, does. And I call on them to join the ICC and execute this warrant. And I want to be equally clear.
Wow.
Benjamin Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City, nor is any other war criminal at large.
So you see right there, what is the mayor doing? He's appealing to the federal government, which is run by Trump, to get on board with the highest standard of laws out there, which is the International Criminal Court, in his mind. Even though this court has been set up to defy America and has nothing to do with America and does not have rules that place the well-being of citizens in this country first. But that's how you remake a place. You need another standard. You need to delegitimize the current standard. And this is part of that.
Well, here's how I reconcile it. We're not members of the ICC. We never signed that treaty. We never joined it. And they somehow claim that they have a right, nonetheless, to go after non-treaty members and put heads of state and others in jail.
Yeah.
We've long had quarrels with them. And we have lunatics and crazies involved in the ICC that are talking about charging members of the U.S. military,
right,
maybe even the president or a future president, with crimes. I mean, it's not going to happen.
The socialists
it's
would
just
love
not
it.
going to happen. We are not members of that court. We never signed on to that treaty. They need to understand that. If people want to sign on and be a part of that stupid organization, they can. But we're not going to be a part of it.
Well, the socialists wish that we were, and if they start running America, we're going to sign on with something like that. Oh yeah, and then when this court says that members of the U.S. military are heroes who are out there keeping us safe, protecting our lives and our freedoms and our liberties, when they say that all these people are criminals because they've just determined it, the communists running this place, oh yeah, you want them? Yep, they're criminals. Get them, arrest them, ship them out. Like, this would basically be opening the floodgates to another system to come into our country and arrest Americans and put them up against a legal system that has no bearing in this country. That's why Rubio is so right on the money with this. This is a stupid treaty. This is dumb. You don't do this unless you want to destroy your country and give away the rights of your citizens. Our rights are protected by our Constitution, but they want this other set of laws above it so that they can just circumvent the whole thing and just flush our rights down the toilet.
That's
you know, who gives him the right to say that? That he's not, he is the mayor, yes, right, but everybody else in New York has their own opinion. New York has been the center of the universe for forever. Forever, and it's wonderful to see how New York always greets and accepts people of all different politics. When the General Assembly happens, all these other countries are represented. Right. You know, that's just New York's grandeur. And for him to say that, what about if Netanyahu's a war criminal? What's the leader of Hamas who started?
Right. So a lot of people are bringing that up, but the thing you have to understand here is the socialists, they're not playing fair. They're not out there trying to have the same rules apply to everybody. They want a special set of rules that protects them and negatively affects their enemies in some way and disenfranchises their enemies. That's what they want. They would love a court system out there to have power in America that could lock up those who want America to do things they don't like.
I think that there's a hatred of the Jews.
And Mamdani,
and I don't like Netanyahu.
By the way, Mamdani apparently did say that Hamas leaders should be prosecuted in his commentary. But one of the things that stands out to me about his Netanyahu comments, okay, is that if he said this in his position as mayor, let's just say for argument, 5 years ago, the reaction versus what it is now would be much different.
Can you imagine if it was 5 years ago? It would have been.
Now, it's not seen as a fringe position.
It isn't.
Right. And what's interesting about that is the mayor came out with this speech, this well-produced footage, which has the super blurry background and has him sitting at a desk with his hands folded like this, where he's talking about how he doesn't have the power to do this thing that he promised on the campaign. And there's people on the right that are jumping on this and they're saying, you know what? The mayor, he is breaking his promises to these people. He's lying about everything. He can't arrest Netanyahu. He can't deliver free buses. Look, people don't care about that. Check this out. Here's the mayor's video, and look at these comments right here. I can't believe a politician has the guts to say it. As an Italian living in Italy, that's my mayor. How did this guy make basic morals sound like what? Like, so people are applauding this speech, even though he couldn't keep a campaign promise by arresting somebody. You can't be tough on crime if you're not tough on... The idea that people who support Mayor Mamdani are looking at this as some sort of backtrack is completely false. He's just the mayor. He's appealed to the president to do the right thing and obey a different system of laws that do not have America's best interest at heart. And if the president would only get on board and do that, oh, this would be such a happy, wonderful, magical place. No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. Just like opening the border would not make America a magical, happy place. If you were to open the U.S. border tomorrow and tell everybody who wants to come into our country that they're allowed to, well, guess what? You've got criminal organizations controlling vast swaths of territory in Mexico right now along the southern border. And if you tell them that they can have unlimited customers passing through their territory to access America, they're gonna go back to making more than the $13 billion a year they were making on getting people into America illegally. So we're just gonna power up criminals if we do the one thing the communists say we should do so that this can be a magical, happy place where everyone lives forever. That's never going to change. And the only way to have a country is to enforce its laws, because if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. But the communists don't want that. They want this to be their country. And now they're all over the place. Look at this.
ICE has nothing to do with immigration. ICE has nothing to do with the southern border. ICE is about normalizing paramilitary force on our streets. ICE is about weaponizing the idea of immigration against the Constitution itself. ICE cannot be reformed. ICE cannot be retrained. ICE has to be abolished.
Wow. So this guy is the new hot ticket, Abdul El Sayed, running for the U.S. Senate in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And he sounds exactly like Mayor Mamdani. This is who this political party is made up of right now. And you know something? They hate the border. The second they can get rid of it, they've achieved a victory. The second they can get international laws made up by kangaroo courts in other parts of the world to start applying to Americans who protect our country and make it great, that's the second they have a justice system in place that can start getting revenge on their political enemies. You see, these are the things they want. This is this party. If you vote for these people, there is this major pull, this tide, this riptide, bringing people further to the left. They've got to endorse this stuff. If they don't, they're not going to have a party.
I'm endorsing Abdul El Sayed for Senate in
No
Michigan.
surprise.
Abdul is the only candidate in this race not taking corporate money, and he's fighting to get money out of politics altogether. Abdul studied to be a doctor, and he's fighting for every single American.
Yeah, except the Americans who are victims of the types of crimes his policies would turbocharge. And but he studied to be a doctor. Oh, like as if that means that somebody has a proper view of how our country should operate while being a self-proclaimed socialist. I mean, these people, there's something happening in the Democrat Party, and it's very interesting. You got a few people out there who are like, wait a second, this whole communism thing, maybe this isn't so hot, but the rest of them, I mean, they were already so progressive, they have now progressed into communists themselves, and they are ready to jump on board with this whole thing. They love it.
Say, Abdul El Sayed represents the politics of the future.
Yeah, really.
And if we want to not only win a Senate majority, but win a majority that actually means something.
It's gonna mean something.
Win a majority that actually changes
Oh, it's
something.
gonna change something.
Win a majority that when we have it, all we hear are excuses. But when Republicans have it, everything seems to get demolished overnight.
Nah, you see, they're the ones that want to demolish everything overnight with their opening of the U.S. border, with their plundering of our country. But you know something? This doesn't just stop with the free health care that everybody wants, that they were taught to want under which president? Oh, yeah. President Barack Obama, who brought us Obamacare, which was supposed to collapse our healthcare system and is doing a pretty good job of that, making healthcare completely unaffordable for everybody who can't keep their doctor anymore and doesn't even know who their doctor is because they keep changing every single week. They want the free healthcare, but that's not good enough. Now they want the free buses. Now they want the free grocery stores. Now they want America to totally defund law enforcement and defund our military so they can just pick the house they want and live in it. So they can just have whatever they want. A brand new iPhone every year. Yeah, let's get free iPhones for everybody. I mean, this is where we're heading. We're headed to this place in America, on the left anyways, where people look at what others have and they say, I want that. And if I don't have that, life is unfair, and because they have it and I don't, the system is rigged in their favor, and I'm a victim of whatever that system is, so we need to tear it down, we need to destroy it, we need to change it, we need to do something else with it. And the criminals at the southern border are all too happy to help. What do you think about that? See you in the next video.